Okay, everyone, welcome. My name is Dr. Daniel Kelly, and I'm the Academic Director of Graduate Programs for the Preston Tisch Institute for Global Sport. This topic is a very exciting topic where I've been able to bring in some recent graduates from 2021 of our graduate degree programs here at the Preston Tisch Institute for Global Sport. We have Daniel Capuano, who is the Senior Client Account Manager for Twitter. He is a graduate of the MS in Sport Business program. We have Ms. Caroline Kasper, who is an account manager at Sabrina LCP Communications, and she's a graduate of the MS in Global Sport graduate degree program. We have Linden Moore, who is a doctoral student at the Auckland University of Technology in New Zealand, and she is a graduate of the MS in Sports Business program. And we have Mr. Alex Young, who is the manager for Capelli Sport for Brand Alliances, and he's a graduate of the MS in Sport Business program. Thank you for joining us. This topic is going to be navigating your career path in the sports industry. Within this session, we'll hear thought-provoking insights and perspectives from young Tisch Institute alumni in the sports world. They will tackle topics such as working from home, the impact of COVID-19 on their career paths, career pivots due to changes in the sports marketplace, as well as the re-emergence of different issues, social issues, and identities throughout sport. We're looking today to get real hardcore insight into what they're dealing with and to give them a chance to really break down what is working in their career paths. And so overall, thank you for joining us. All right, so for the first question, we'll dive right into it. We'll start with Linden. Please explain your role and duties as a graduate student in New Zealand.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting journey for me because as of April, I wasn't entirely even sure like this was going to happen. I didn't even think about this until April when someone reached out about it. So I'm basically looking at marketing women's basketball. That's going to be my thesis. We're getting closer to a lens probably about the role female athletes play as ambassadors in marketing the game. But basically I'm part-time content creator. I'm a doctoral student. I do all these things, but all in New Zealand because that's where a lot of my passion is. So it's a lot of research and it's a lot of content creation. I do help some with some sponsorship and other things on the side for other small associations and sport clubs in New Zealand as well. So it's been kind of a hodgepodge of all the things. But yeah, that's been basically me for the past couple months.
All right, next we'll go to Dan. The same question, explain your current role. I believe we had a pretty exciting new position since your old role ended recently.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Like you said, I'm brand new in this role. I just started month 2, week 5. So really exciting. And if there's anything that I can't specifically speak to yet, don't hold it against me. But no, so my role as a senior client account manager at Twitter is I essentially wear a lot of different hats. I'm managing day-to-day client relationships for the book of business that I sit on, working in tandem, hand in hand with the sales partner. So it's a lot of managing the day-to-day of the business, managing communication with those clients, reporting, and then finding a lot of strategy work. And that is where a lot of that doubles back into the sports lane, where we work really closely with people who manage direct relationships with the sports networks and try to find the right place for them to fit in as brand advertisers with those inventory rights.
Okay, great. We'll move next to Alex.
Yeah, hey guys. Hey, Dr. Kelly. Thanks for having me and a pleasure to join everybody. So I work for Capelli Sport, which is a sports apparel brand focused mainly on soccer teamwear. I'm an operations and account manager. I work in sales and supply chain management. And specifically, we have a branch of our business called Capelli Sport Plus, which is, what can we offer to our partners besides just apparel and equipment? So it's the events and services division of our company that works to put on events, tournaments, and pro pathways to success for young soccer players in the US. And so I manage that division of the business, and I'm really enjoying it so far. It's been about 2 years so far, and it's growing and it's going great.
All right, thank you, Alex. Next we'll go to Caroline. Your exciting work with Sabrina LPC Communications.
Thanks for having me, everybody. I feel like I know most of you here, so good to see you all. I started with Sabrina actually in the fall, and pretty cool story, met Sabrina through grad school. She came to speak to our class, my cohort, fall of 2019. We are a small but gritty PR firm. There's 3 of us, potentially growing soon. And we have some really cool clients that considering how small we are. We work with FC Barcelona doing their American PR. Sabrina has had that client for about 6 years. Until a year and a half ago, she was just herself. And then she hired my colleague, Michael, and then myself. So we're really growing pretty quickly, which is great to see. We also do PR for Drive by DraftKings, a VC firm that DraftKings is a major investor in. And then we have a few other clients, but those are, I guess I'd say, the 2 main ones. And we also work with the Mom Project. So not in the sports space, but a really fun client to work with, helping moms really re-enter the workforce right now, which is such a hot topic, as well as stay in the workforce and the job they really want to be doing. So overall, when I say we do PR for them, that means we're not only writing press releases, we're helping them at speaking engagements. And if we land a speaking engagement for them, we're prepping them for the speaking engagement. And we had a client, the CEO of the Mom Project was on Bloomberg on Monday night. So we secured that opportunity. And then we also help prepare her for the opportunity with a document of what she needs to know. Last week, we had a pretty big announcement, some funding news from the Mom Project. So once that news hit, it's our job to control the message as well as track for the coverage. So that's just a little snippet of what we do. And we're constantly looking, at the end of the day, we're looking for new business, but we're so small that there's sometimes, it's a matter of the right business. So it's been fun to be on a small team. I come from a background of working for pretty big companies. So it's definitely a gritty team, but it's been a lot of fun.
All right, so we'll continue with Caroline, since I already have you speaking and pretty good momentum. So Caroline, I know that you met your current boss for your new opportunity, Sabrina, during your time during one of our residencies back about 2 years ago. How did you maintain that relationship, that professional working relationship that allowed you to be able to be ready for this type of opportunity?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I met her in fall of 2019, and I was actually working at CSM, Sports and Entertainment, doing sponsorship sales. And we just stayed in touch. We would text, chat. We were trying for the longest time to get a drink or a coffee in the city. And then I'd say 2 weeks before COVID, because she lives in Long Island, 2 weeks before COVID, she was like, I'm actually taking my class to a Devils game tonight. Alex was there. Do you want to come with us? Because we've been trying to get together. And she's like, I have an extra ticket. And it was funny because I used to work for the parent company of the Devils. So I went, and then I think COVID hit, like it was late February. COVID must have hit like 2 weeks later. And I actually was supposed to start a job in the fitness space, doing marketing at a very small boutique fitness studio. I quit my job right before COVID. When I say right before, like a week before. So that job actually didn't come to fruition. Unfortunately, I had a start date and a contract, just didn't come to fruition due to COVID. So I wasn't working from March to October. And I'd say I always network just for the sake of it, to meet with people and just grow my network. But I'd say those 6 months, I more so was networking because I wasn't working and no one was really hiring, but people had the time to talk. So I probably would reach out. I mean, I had like a spreadsheet of people I would talk to, but she was probably one of the people that I would continually keep up with. And we just connected, and it was always just a chat and see what she was doing. It wasn't necessarily to get a job, because I didn't even think I'd ever work for her. I knew she was so small. And then in October, she texted me, are you still looking for work? I just hired 2 new clients. I need some help. So I didn't even really apply for the job, and I don't have any PR experience, but I think at the end of the day, she saw my persistence and everything you're selling or storytelling. So she saw that there's something in the yard. She saw that I had the sales experience, which is PR experience. You're pitching a story, you're pitching your client. Why should my client be on that SBJ panel, et cetera? So started we thought would be small because we didn't know if it would be a fit, et cetera. I don't have that experience. And here we are, I guess, celebrating, I'm looking at the date, our 1 year anniversary together. So here we are a year later, and it's not part-time at all anymore. So yeah, I'd say I just stayed in touch with her. And it was genuine, I think is important too. It wasn't, my communication with her was genuine. I actually got to know her. And then I was top of mind when she needed some help.
No, I definitely appreciate that, especially the fact that you built a relationship, that you were available, and that you were willing to start out part-time. And using that part-time as a segue, I know, Alex, you started out with Capelli in a part-time function, and you were able to build that into quite a successful career now, as you've been with them now for going on 2 years. Can you tell me more about your transition? Because you came into the time of working with us together at NYU with this opportunity with Capelli.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. So I came in and basically started this part-time position with Capelli. The same exact day of my first day of the part-time job was my first day at NYU. So that was
Yeah.
a big day for me, moving up to New York from the South. So I had a lot on my plate from the get-go, but it was great. I had a kind of, reduced schedule, reduced hours here in the office up here in Midtown, and then I would go downtown to class at NYU. So it was great. I mean, look, having that experience to go into class in the evening and learn from industry professionals, keep in touch with my professors, such as yourself, Dr. Kelly, and Dean Gennaro and other professors there at the program, to kind of help mold my pathway and give me advice along the way was something that was invaluable for me. And yeah, you fast forward, about 2 years later from when I first started, and I graduated from the program, and then it was time to take that next big step with my company, with Capelli Sport. And they asked me to put together, a plan for where I saw myself, in X amount of years. And I think the resources that I had at my disposal in NYU were fantastic. I've been able to just pop into the office, as Caroline mentioned, go grab a drink or coffee or something, and just talk about, real life things, strategy, approach, verbiage, emails, things to say, things to do to position myself the best that I could, to leverage, the most amount of success for myself. And I think it's paid off. I've been graduated for like 5 months now. And yeah, it's going really well, and I'm excited about, where it's headed.
Yeah, we're really proud of the hard work that you put in and leveraging the resources, which is really important. So I'll use that as a segue to Dan for you next. You also have been quite successful. You're one of the students who was really proactive, working on independent studies and, figuring out ways to really maximize your time at NYU. This position with Twitter, was this something you were actively searching for? Was it something that, can you give us more of a background of how you started this opportunity with Twitter?
Yeah, no, so similar to Alex, I was working the entire time that I was a student at NYU. I was actually working full-time and a part-time student, so classes at night a couple days a week. But the whole time I was working in advertising, which is what my background's been in since I graduated college. But I always knew that I wanted to do something more sports specific. And also I was working in the TV side of things the last few years, and I wanted to get back to the digital side. So just something, once I graduated in May, I realized I had a little bit more free time between homework and classes, no longer taking up time. So I was just looking and searching for that right fit of those two starting points and criteria for me. And I saw some posting at Twitter. I've been following Twitter for a long time. It's one of the dream companies for me, and reached out to a connection I had from my old walk of life, somebody who I worked with when he was at ESPN and I was on the agency side of advertising. And he's at Twitter. He's been there for a while, and I just played that network as hard as I could. And he introduced me to somebody else, who introduced me to somebody else. And then 2 months later, after interviewing and going through an intensive process, I got the offer, and that's how I ended up there and the approach I took. But similar to what Alex said, a lot of it was influential from the guidance I got from professors throughout my 2 years there in terms of how to network, how to reach out to people. And when I realized early on that the professors were just as interested in my success as I was interested in my own success, that was when I knew to really start taking advantage of that network and lean on them. And that guidance was really crucial for me to get to where I am right now.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear you say that, because I think that's one of the things that is one of our foundations, is that we really understand the industry, and, your success is our success. I think, we're going through this entire marketing campaign to kind of tell our stories and to be able to, allow people to understand that, you won't just be a number here at NYU. Like, we really care about your development, and we look forward to having you as colleagues and potential faculty in the future if we're lucky. Moving forward to someone who will be a faculty member one day, Linden. We worked together on a lot of your research, and you're one of the success stories for our research and independent study courses, because you were able to leverage this into an opportunity in New Zealand. Can you tell us more about this opportunity?
Yeah, definitely. And first of all, I want to say thank you, Dr. Kelly, for really guiding me through that. And you're actually the one who planted the seed for the research for me. And I think it was interesting because it was something that in NYU, I really just want to double back of what everyone here said, is just the way that you can leverage the resources that they give you. And I think that definitely came into play. I know for me, what I loved about it is that it was there, you know, you guys are genuinely invested in our success. And so because I know when I came in August 2019 or 2015, excuse me, or whenever it was I came in, it was like, listen, I want to do this and I have this passion. And I had this idea of what I really cared about. And I remember, I think it was you who approached me and said, how about, you know, would you want to do this? And I think just fun, you know, it was nice because I had the guidance and I had kind of the idea of, okay, like this is the topic that I want to cover, which is, again, at NYU, what we looked at was funding for basketball in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And then how to take the stuff that we've learned and the industry practices that NYU gives us and then how to apply that. And I just remember being super excited about it. Like that was probably one of my absolute favorite things that I did there. And having that actually really did help me, because when it came time and I decided I wanted to do the PhD, was I actually had a requirement that was missing, because they were in the Commonwealth, they require all master's students to have a research project that's worth 25%. And I did not have that, but having the research classes that, you know, Dr. Hayduk's with the research methods class, and then having that capstone, the advanced research, plus the independent study, I think that really helped me get me over the line and really showed them like, you know what, this is what she's serious about. And it also helped build my portfolio too, which I know for me was worth gold in itself, because that's, you know, if I can't be there on face, like to show that I actually care. And so I think, yeah, just kind of being able to pile, it's kind of like the world's collided there, and it was really cool. And then to be able to show too now, that was actually the head of postgraduate at AUT who reached out to me, to be able to show that to him. He's now my supervisor, and say, this is the body of work that I worked with faculty. And this is something that I'm interested in doing, or even if the project's a little bit different, here's what I want to explore. Like, here's something that I know I can do it, and people know that I can. And coming from NYU and what I've learned in this whole process is that that's also worth a lot. So that's it. Everything that really, I think that's what ultimately helped get me over the line into the opportunity that I currently have, which I love. And it's definitely challenging, but I think NYU helped prepare me for it. And if I didn't have that, and I didn't have the professors to keep encouraging me, and a lot of my mentors there always said, you know, you can do it. And, you know, you just kind of like, you know, if you change just one thing or something like that, just that encouragement, I think also got me over the line there, and helped me with that. So I think it was just kind of a combination of all those things is kind of how we got to where we are now. And I'm always grateful for it.
I'm really, really excited for your work, really excited for the hard work. I think we worked on that project for almost 2 or 3 months before you even started the course, the independent study course. So we put a lot of time into that. Next, I want to drop a question for Dan, because I know some best practices for interviewing or even job searching during the pandemic, because we're still in the pandemic, and you definitely did allude to this in your previous answer, especially speaking about leveraging your network and, you know, just being able to negotiate those types of relationships. And so best practices, if you had to give advice to alumni who are seeking to make the same kind of pivot that you made.
Yeah, a few things that come to mind for that. Similar to what I said in my last answer, make sure to do your due diligence if you're really interested in a role and a position in a company, of looking at who works there, how you might know somebody there, who the connection might be. It's a tough reality of it, but a lot of these positions are so competitive that they get hundreds, if not thousands, of cold applications through LinkedIn. And I'm not saying it's impossible to get a job through that, but I found it to be virtually impossible to get an interview or an application in from that. So where I found the most success in that process was in really trying to leverage my network, or leverage the network of somebody who was in my network, which is where school really came into play, or just people I met throughout the years of working. And then from there, it's really not being afraid or shy about asking for help, because between the people you know and the people in school and the professors, people generally like helping and want to help. So to really make sure to reach out and take that step and put yourself out there. And then just 1 or 2 more quick things on that is, the pandemic has afforded us a lot of weirdness, but one of those things is that I found was a positive in not so many ways, but was true, was that people have a little bit more time in a lot of regards now, and it's a lot easier to get that virtual cup of coffee than that physical cup of coffee, or that virtual beer than that physical beer. So people are a little bit more open to sharing that time and filling that time in different ways. So I think asking to meet with people is a really important thing, and people might be a little bit more free now. And then this is the simple thing, but just really doing your due diligence and working hard, and treating an interview like a job or an assignment in school, because the ones that I felt I was most prepared for going in were the ones that went the best. And it's really just, I can't say and stress enough to do the background work, to do the research, to look at who you're going to be talking to and look at their past experiences, to read over the job description as many times as possible and have examples that go. So yeah, those are the keys for me. And when that all kind of came together, because of the amount of time I was job searching, by that point, I felt pretty well rehearsed in what I had to say for Twitter in my interviews, and I thought that it was the best interviews I've ever had. So I think that it's words to live by for me, at least now.
No, that's great advice. And you know, the virtual cup of coffee, the virtual informational interviews, you know, that's kind of one of my hallmarks. I'm good at setting students up with professionals in the field, and, you know, getting you 30 minutes on their calendar. I think that's one of the things that I love to do, connect students, and, you know, make sure that you get a chance to start to build your network. And, you know, Dan, I mean, one of the things you alluded to was coming prepared, because the last thing you want to do is get a cup of coffee or a virtual informational interview with a professional, and you run out of questions to ask them because you weren't really prepared. And then you're taking these good habits that you're building into your interviews. And, you know, you've been on many informational interviews, and by the time you get to the actual real interviews, you're so polished that you know exactly what to say. You're anticipating potential questions, which is great. I'm going to pivot a bit when I go to Alex for the next question. We're going to go off script a little bit, because I know Alex is, of course, a manager. And so, Alex, you are now hiring, of course, building out your team and, you know, managing people during the pandemic. And, you know, how has that experience been to be a manager and to have to train someone and to, you know, kind of like train your replacement, right, to a certain extent, as you moved up to a higher level in your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't speak on, you know, how that changed in the pandemic, because I've been in the office for
The whole time. That's right. That's right.
the whole time, really. But definitely, you know, growing in my role and, you know, starting to hire people beneath me, and you know, going from, you know, doing the grunt work to, you know, possibly passing some of that off, and managing people. You know, it's a challenge. It's something that's difficult if you've never done it before. It can surprise you, and the challenges that it presents. You got to be smart about it. You got to be responsible. We got to come to work prepared for those questions that might present themselves throughout the workday. But it's been exciting overall. I mean, look, I brought in a colleague that I'm really happy with. We have a great relationship. We're going to continue to grow out our team. And as I mentioned in my first response about Capelli Sport Plus, which is our events and services department, we're really growing out all of our events and our showcases and our tournaments. So it's something that's really kind of cutting edge for us and our kind of more or less as a startup company. And it's something that we can take control of and harness and own, to be honest. So we're cultivating ideas together. I'm leading him and cultivating his own ideas. And it's been going really well, and we're excited, and we're kind of creating that hierarchy. You know, I'm climbing up the ladder myself. I'm assisting my new colleague and climbing up the ladder himself, providing him with advice every day wherever I can, giving him little tidbits, whether it be in a company-wide meeting or kind of, you know, take him to the side and give him some words of advice and confidence. You know, it's been a good experience, and we're growing fast, and you know, I'm excited about the direction that we're all headed in.
No, I'm really glad to hear that. And, you know, I know you're too humble to brag on some of the exciting projects you're working on, but if you can give us a bit of a look under the covers into some of the recent international endeavors and activations that you've worked on recently, that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So our owner and CEO is an investor in several professional soccer clubs. One of the main ones is HB Koga, which is a professional team in Denmark. They play in the Superliga, the second tier of Superliga, which is the second tier of professional soccer in Denmark. And as I mentioned, most of our partners and our customers are youth soccer teams here in the United States, right? So what we do is we have our technical director, who we've hired, who used to work for US Soccer. So what he's done is gone around the country to all of our partner clubs to find the best talents, right? And we basically created an all-star team, and it's just something that's going to be built out to different countries. Germany is our next target country that we're going to. But for this past summer, we went to Denmark. We took our all-star team. That all-star team competed against teams from Germany, from Greece, from Turkey, from Lithuania. So it was a really exciting international competition that we put together. And we're growing in more. So we're going to be in Germany next year. We're going to do more teams next year in Denmark. We're going to open up a women's division. And that was great. I was really excited to go over there and run all the logistics for that tournament. It was fun because the culmination of that tournament was the first regular season game of the professional club over there, which was on, I think, August 1st. So just a couple months ago. So it was cool because all those all-star players from the Capelli Sport Network got to be in market to watch that first home game of the Superliga season for HB Koga in Denmark. So yeah, it's a lot of fun stuff that we're doing overseas. We've got several other partner professional clubs that the CEO of the company owns. So we're going to continue to build this out in several different nations, and it's really exciting.
All right, great. Really exciting work. Next, we're going to move to Caroline. And Caroline, for you, the question is about mentorship and the impact of mentors on your career path. And as a side note, Caroline, you're probably one of the best networkers I've ever worked with out of the students I've had in my career path. And you're able to establish these authentic relationships, and I think it's because you've learned from great mentors. But I'll let you provide the context around it.
Yeah, that's very kind of you. Thanks, Dr. Kelly. I think, first of all, you never want to dismiss somebody because you think they might not be able to help you in the immediate. I'll give an example. So it feels like everything pre-COVID is like yesteryears. Spring of 2016, I was living in Philly, working for the Sixers, and I wanted to move to New York and work at an agency, but unless you started an agency out of college, it's really hard to break in. I was 26 and I had a lot of experience, but it wasn't agency experience. And I was I went to Denison undergrad, and I was at a Denison alumni event at a law firm, just like a networking thing. And I was talking to this woman who was about 20 years older than me, but in my sorority, and she worked in the art world. I could have immediately just, dismissed. She was really fun, so I was having a good time with her. But I could have immediately just like dismissed her and been like, oh, she's in the art world. What is she gonna do for me? Which I don't ever do that. I'm just saying, don't do that, because we started chatting and found out her really good high school friend from outside Philly at the time ran an agency called Glide Slope. Very small agency. They're now actually part of CSM. They're called CSM Advisor now. And he's actually at the USOC now, doing sponsorships. But anyways, she said, you need to talk to my friend Dave Minji. And we had she email introduced us the next morning. I had like an hour-long call with Dave the next week. And he said, I'm not hiring, but my friend is the CEO of CSM. Well, he actually had a lot of connections he connected me to. One of them was the CEO of CSM. So I applied for a job and told Dave I applied, and he, passed my information on. With a day or two, I got an email from the then CEO's assistant saying, we want you to come in for an interview. I'm not saying I wouldn't necessarily gotten it on my own, but like we said, there's thousands of resumes on people's desk. And I think I would have maybe made it through the shuffle, we'll call it, especially without having agency experience. So I ended up getting the job and working for them for 4 years. So I think just the lesson learned here is don't dismiss anybody because you think, well, she's in the art world. What is she gonna, you never know who anybody knows. And you always want to make sure that you're just genuine and like a nice person. I hate using the word nice. I think it's kind of cheesy, but just be a good person. And, you never know what can come of it. If that makes sense. So just be genuine and always, think you never know who they know and what door that door could open to the next door, etc.
Oh, that's a great advice. And I think, one thing I try to always tell students is to always say yes, because you never know where that could lead you. And sometimes when you're dismissive or you think it doesn't really have a correlation or a fit, that's when you miss out on those big opportunities. And so I think you just being open to learning, open to connecting, I think, you have spoken to some of the top professionals in the sports industry. And I have full faith in your ability to build a authentic connection with them. I mean, you've met Damani Leach, you've had some great calls with some of the top people we brought in, the MS and Global Sport Program. And, you've been able to have them reach back out to me and say, it was awesome to meet you. And I think that's a skill set that, you have and you have developed over the years. And so good job with that.
Thank you.
And then,
one more thing I'd say is,
oh, please, yes.
kind of to reiterate, because I've talked to a lot of students lately. Thank you. You've connected me to a bunch, and hopefully I've given them good advice. But the last thing I'll say is just don't be so focused on the now. Like, I was connected, I think this event at the Denison event I'm referring to was January or February of 2016. I stayed in touch with Dave, and then like maybe April or May, Dave is the one who connected me to CSM. I got connected through the Denison person in the art world. I think it was April or May, I might've applied for the job and just shot him a note and said, not long shot, do you know anybody here? And that's when he said, actually, I do. I know the CEO. But it'd been like 4 months since he and I originally connected, but we just kind of stayed in touch. I would periodically email him when I felt like it was relevant or something that he was doing. And then about a year later, his agency actually got acquired by CSM. So we were under the same roof for a while. So just don't be so focused on the immediate and what can you do for me now? Or not always what can they do for you, you never know. Even if they can't do anything for you, just be genuine, because maybe somebody they know can connect you to somebody. So just don't focus on the now so much, because it's a long game, not a short game.
Good advice. Good advice. We'll transition over to Linden. Impact of mentors on your career, or impact of mentors just so far in your life?
Yeah, it's a great question, and something I actually reflect on often. And I'm going to say, I think mentors to me are the biggest asset that I've had in my career, because I've been through I went from journalism to sports business, and there's still content in there, and then there's research. And I think for me, a lot of it is reassurance and just knowing that whatever, like, hey, or, recommendations saying like, this is something that, oh, hey, maybe you should look at. And because I'm such a hodgepodge of ton of different areas, that, having mentors in different areas just to kind of show me, help open my eyes to new things. I love learning. And also just to have someone to talk to and kind of just be like, hey, I just kind of want to talk through this, whether it's personal life, whether it's work, school, really any of those things. And so NYU, I know for me, has probably given me more, probably the most amount of mentors I've ever had. Especially shout out to you, Dr. Kelly, Professor Myler, and many others who I've really had the opportunity to work close with throughout my time. And I think those are the people, it was the people for me that really made the experience what it was. And I know, like, specifically, like, Professor Myler, she showed me that I can be a strong leader in the sports industry, even though I'm a female, and that shouldn't stop me. And here's how she went about it. So I get to take little pieces of their experience and their advice and kind of compile it into my own experience. But what I really appreciate about them is that they never said, you have to do this, or, you have to do the exact same path. They really embraced me. With everybody that I've talked to embraced me full on and said, all right, this is the path that you're looking at. Great. And if they weren't as familiar with it, which I know at NYU, like New Zealand, not necessarily the same connection, but everybody really wrapped their arms around it and tried to make it work, or at least let me help them understand. And we all collaborated and worked together. And, kind of just staying in touch with people and just knowing that people have your back. And it's a lot about who you know. And obviously the knowledge and experience is important. But, even if maybe trying something, like I tried an agency for a little bit, didn't love it, but I have those mentors that, if I have questions, I know I can reach back out. And so I think we're all just we're part of a giant puzzle of wanting to make what we do better. And that's how I see those mentors and professors, internship managers, all those people, even friends, just learning from all of them. So they've had a huge impact. And I know my knowledge has grown because of it. And my confidence too, I think a little bit in the industry, moving forward, has been huge. And I think it's just been a lot of, having the confidence to to go out there and having the reassurance and knowing that I've got people behind me to do that. So I've been really lucky. So they played a huge role.
All right, great. Mentorship, we'll go to Alex next.
Absolutely. I mean, look, as far as staff, faculty at NYU, I would say yourself, Dr. Kelly. I really enjoyed picking the brain of Dr. Abrams as well. I really enjoyed his class in facility management and your class in finance. And outside of the classroom, of course, just being able to go into the SPS building, right? And just kind of shooting you an email or a note on LinkedIn to say, hey, can we meet up for a bit? I have some questions. I have something going on at work that I'd like to, discuss with you. And like I said before, kind of planning that strategy, that approach of, how to go about things in the workplace. I think that was something that was invaluable to me. And then just mentorship in general. My current manager, Jason, he brought me into this role. I met him in the month leading up to when I started NYU. I actually met him through my past job with CONCACAF, which was also in the soccer world. And he did a fantastic job. We hit it off, as friends first. And then I explained to him that I was moving to New York to go to NYU. And obviously he knew about my past experience with CONCACAF. And he said, hey, you seem like the perfect fit. You should come work for Capelli Sport part-time while you're in school. And so obviously that's what happened at the end of the day. And it's something that I'll always be grateful for. He and I still have a fantastic working relationship. We've grown in our relationship. As I mentioned in one of my last responses, we've now hired, subordinates below us. And so we're continuing to build out our little subdivision of Capelli Sport, carve out roles for ourselves. And yeah, he's been great. And mentorship in general, yeah, it's all about networking and knowing the right people. And you always need support. No matter how much you grow in your business and your career, you're going to need support and advice from people. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things you said. I think a lot of times, we're all high achieving, wanting to do our best, and we sometimes forget that you're not meant to find success in this world alone. And so the mentors, the support systems, the resources that are available to you are opportunities for you to be your best self. And so, Dan, moving over to you, mentors and the impact of being able to reach out for support in your career path.
Yeah, no, for me, the way I think about mentorship is all of the most successful people that I see or that I read about or that you listen to, they all talk about surrounding themselves with people who they can learn from and people who are better at a skill than they are that they can then study from. So that's something that I've really tried to do throughout my career and through my time in school. And it was a big motivator for me to go back to school. Was I felt at a certain point in my career, I needed to be challenged and pushed outside of what I was doing professionally. So that's why I went to school, and I found people much like you, Dr. Kelly, and Dr. Brown, and Professor Fuller, and Professor Pierce, who I just took so much from and I gravitated to, and I really formed those relationships with and could count on for advice, because I knew that you guys were true, genuine experts in your spaces and had that same, I guess, like I said earlier, interest in my own success. So I've always tried to keep in mind that very motivation, right? It's making sure that you are staying close to people who you can genuinely learn from, who also you can have a true, authentic relationship with. And I've done that professionally every step of the way. Every job I've had somebody who I look up to, who I can learn from, and who might be managing me, might not be managing me. And it's been already at Twitter. I've already found those people who I feel like I've can have some sort of mentorship relationship with. And I think that has made my transition there much more smooth accordingly. So it's being mindful of what you don't know and who you can get that guidance from.
All right, that's actually fantastic advice. I want to keep it with you, Dan, for our final question. I know it's only been 5 weeks at Twitter, so I'm not expecting much, but most difficult and exciting parts of, your current career.
Yeah, well, the most difficult part is, like you said, it's only 5 weeks, so it's ramping up and learning.
Yeah.
Just transitioning to a new role. There's so much to learn at a place like Twitter. There's so many different things happening, so many different teams, and I'm really motivated to ramp up as quickly as I can. So taking that on, but it has been obviously a difficult process, especially remotely, but starting a new job and meeting my new team all over FaceTime and Zoom. So that's been a challenge in and of itself, but it's been a good one. And the most exciting thing is sometimes I it's going to sound kind of corny to say, but I just like take a step back and kick myself. I'm working at Twitter. It's a company that's been a goal of mine since college, and to finally be here after going through undergrad, graduate school, working for a number of years to get to this point, it's just thrilling to me. And it's an app and a company that I'm really passionate about and have been as a consumer for a long time. So to now be on the business side of it and to actually call it my employer, it's just I've never been more excited to be going to work every day and to be in a role. So hopefully that momentum will continue to carry me. I think it will. But yeah, it's been great so far for the first 2 months. So.
All right, exciting. We'll go to Alex next. Most difficult and most exciting parts of Capelli.
I think the most difficult and exciting part of working at Capelli is one and the same, because as I mentioned, we are kind of like a startup subdivision of Capelli, New York is a very large fashion manufacturing business. And Capelli Sport is only about 9-10 years old. So we're kind of a startup within a larger company, trying to use the systems and processes that work for the fashion side of the business for a new sector, which is sport. So a lot of times, like I said, we don't have the right infrastructure perhaps in place to kind of attack our market and our potential customers and business partners. But at the same time, it's really exciting because you can kind of be a pioneer in your space with that startup culture, right? I can go to my CEO and tell him about, a market that is completely untapped, and he'll listen to me. Of course, I have to come prepared with the right numbers, a P&L, a business plan, a full strategy, but he'll listen. And if he sees value in it at the end of the day, he will give me the green light, which is something that's fantastic. And also kind of from a global broad reaching perspective, he himself, as I mentioned, is an investor in all these professional clubs overseas. You don't have to think small. You don't have to think just domestic in the US. If I get a contact or a message from my old colleagues that lives down in Argentina, or somebody that lives over in Europe, say in Spain, and they say, hey, I have a great opportunity that your CEO might be invested in for this team in like the first or second division of their professional soccer tier of that country. Hey, let's take a look. Send me some details of the club. What are they asking for? What are their needs? What's their current contract look like? Can they break away? Anyways, and it's exciting. It's really cool to be able to take that opportunity, dive into the details, take it to the CEO directly, and get feedback from him. He's a very successful guy, obviously. And so yes, so same thing, difficult, but also very exciting. One and the same, that startup mentality. So,
yeah, that startup mentality, right? Got to have that mentality. All right, so next we'll go to Caroline. Most difficult, most exciting parts of your new career in PR.
I guess I'll kind of copy Alex. Mine kind of go hand in hand. I mean, being on a team of 3 can be difficult at times because it's not like when I was at Lead Dog, CSM, formerly Lead Dog, or the Sixers or the Wizard. There's 200 employees and you have a whole team. And if you take, time off, there's someone, we do take time off, don't worry. But, there's always that team behind you. When you're on a team of 3, it's more, if you don't get it done, sometimes it just doesn't get done, which that doesn't bother me. I'm all about the hustle. Don't get me wrong, but it's just a different dynamic being on a big team compared to a small team. But it's exciting at the same time because that means my hand is involved in a lot of things that probably at a big team it wouldn't be so involved in. So I think, yeah, that kind of goes hand in hand. Being on a small team, we're kind of startup-y too. Well, Sabrina LSP Communications has been in existence for 10 years. The current state that we're kind of growing into, the 3 of us and growing, is a year and a half old. So that's fun too, to be along for the ride. And I said, it's really exciting.
All right, great. And then we'll go to Linden. Most difficult, the most exciting parts about being a doctoral student.
I'm going to go with the exciting part first because this is, I actually get to I get to wake up every day and I actually get to do what I love, which is helping grow the game of basketball for girls, young girls in New Zealand. And this is something that I couldn't have dreamt up like 2 years ago. I knew I wanted to make this full time. And in New Zealand, that's really hard to do because basketball doesn't have a ton of money. But for me to find a way, and I always told myself that I would, that, you know, AUT is invested in me, and my connections in the basketball community also are invested with this project, and having that many, these people, you know, there's a new CEO of Basketball New Zealand, like he's on board with it. Like there's so many people who support what I do, and knowing that, that's really cool. And it also gives me another platform too to leverage my blog for women's basketball, which is one of the very few in the country for it. And then also, like, it's just afforded me so many different opportunities to meet really high up people that I maybe never would have met. Now, with that being said, there's of course challenges. I would say the classic time difference is a challenge, but I've been kind of working like New Zealand hours really since I started this whole thing 2 years ago. So that's really not too hard. But I think just really understanding and working with communication, because especially for international students, like you can't, you know, we can't be on campus, and, you know, they're in harsh lockdown right now, so they can't be either. But I think for me, having that process, like, okay, like this is how online works. And, you know, just really, and I think NYU really put that communication in me, like, you know, this is what you need to do to be successful. So I think just trying to get to people sometimes, because like, and also understanding the culture difference in the sense that, you know, they don't always want to respond. Like they like their alone time. They don't necessarily want to always respond, even when they're time in lockdown, but you need something. So trying to navigate all that while you're not there are people knowing who maybe the work that I do, but never necessarily get to see me. So just not being able to be hands-on, I think, has been the hardest part. It is not, I guess, Thomas silver lining is that, you know, a lot of this stuff I can do here. I can do my literature review here from home. I can, you know, we're designing one of my studies, so in case borders don't open in time, I can't, after the ethics paperwork, I can still go into it. So I think everybody's done a really good job of making sure those challenges are mitigated to the best of our ability. But, you know, just trying to, like, you know, I just feel like the connection is kind of the hardest part, because you want to be there, you want to see it. But, you know, I really can't think of a better path to be, you know, pursuing a passion and, you know, getting to try and make a difference. And also knowing that the pandemic has been challenging for everybody. So I think, yeah, just kind of mitigating where we can, but that was the connection is the most difficult part.
All right, but you're definitely making it work, and you're still being productive, and you're still finding ways to reach your goals. And I think that's one of the main overarching themes that I've gotten today from the conversations is that, you know, there's more than one way to get to a goal. And on top of that, you guys have leaned on mentors, leaned on your past experiences, leaned on your experiences at NYU towards establishing a strong foundation for you to reach your goals. As we transition forward, you know, I want to take a time to thank each of you. You know, thank Dan Capuano from Twitter, Caroline Kasper from Sabrina LCP Communications, Linden Moore from Auckland University of Technology, and Alex Young from Capelli Sport. You know, your service to our alumni, your service to NYU is greatly appreciated. And, you know, your experiences and taking the time to share the positives, the hardships, the overall survival that you're going through right now in your career. And more so than survival, I would say you're thriving, because you're still finding success and you're still reaching for new goals as alumni. And, you know, this series with the Office of Alumni Relations has been pretty exciting. And we definitely want to advocate for alumni to join the SPS Violet Network, and to also to follow us at the NYU Tisch Institute for Global Sport, and to find ways to stay connected, because I guarantee you the same success that these alumni are having, you know, our current students are in the same position to find that success from working with us. And so I definitely want to thank you for all of the insights from our panel, and we look forward to seeing you all soon.